I woke up gasping, my chest tight, as if something had just slipped out of my grasp, some fleeting, forgotten nightmare. My bedroom was dark, save for the pale glow of the street lamp seeping through the curtains. The apartment was silent, and yet I felt it, the weight of a gaze, someone watching. Slowly I turned my head toward the window, my breath hitched. There, standing on the front lawn, barefoot in the frost-covered grass, was me. I froze. My own face stared back at me from the darkness outside, illuminated by the yellowish light. She wasn't just standing there, she was smiling. Not a normal smile, but something stretched too far, held too long, as if she'd forgotten how to let it go. My pulse roared in my ears. I reached for my phone on the nightstand with trembling hands, fumbling to open the camera. My fingers were clumsy, but I managed to snap a picture. My other self didn't move. I forced myself to breathe, to move. With slow, deliberate motions, I peeled back the blankets and swung my legs over the side of the bed. The air was cold against my skin. I didn't take my eyes off her as I reached for my phone again, this time opening the security app linked to the camera on my front door. A motion alert flashed across the screen. Movement detected, 3:14 a.m. With a sharp inhale, I clicked on the notification and waited. The footage loaded, grainy but clear. My hands clenched as I prepared to see myself standing outside. But there was nothing. The lawn was empty. No footprints in the frost, no shadowy figure. Just the quiet street, the distant glow of streetlights, and the faint rustling of trees in the wind. I glanced up from the phone, back to the window. She was gone. My stomach twisted into knots. I scrambled out of bed and rushed to the window, pressing my hands against the cold glass. The street was empty, the frost-covered grass undisturbed. I checked my phone again. The screenshot I'd taken earlier was still there, my own face outside smiling up at me. But when I tapped the image, something was different. The smile was gone, and the reflection of my bedroom window in the photo. There was someone standing behind me. Morning came in a blur of exhaustion and paranoia. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, me, standing on the lawn, watching, smiling. The photo on my phone hadn't changed again, but I deleted it anyway, as if that could erase the wrongness of it all. I told myself I was just tired. Sleep deprivation could do strange things. But the unease didn't fade. The subway was packed, as usual, a sea of faces too preoccupied with their own lives to notice me clenching my hands in my lap. The rhythmic clatter of the train tracks did little to settle my nerves. Then I saw it, my reflection in the window. For a moment it looked normal, my tired face, my scarf wrapped around my neck, the slight furrow of my brow. But something was wrong. The coat was different. My reflection wore the same color, the same cut, but a different style. The buttons off-center, the fabric a little thicker. My real coat hadn't changed, just the one in the reflection. My breath hitched. I jerked my gaze away, pulse hammering. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe the smudged glass distorted the image, playing tricks on my mind. But I couldn't stop myself. I looked back. My reflection was grinning. Not a natural smile, not a polite one. It was stretched too wide, too fixed, as if my face had forgotten how to not smile. I slapped my hand over my mouth instinctively. My real mouth. The one that wasn't smiling. My reflection didn't mimic me. It just stared. I lurched up from my seat, gripping the subway pole for balance. My knees felt weak. My breath came in short gasps. And that's when I saw her. Across the train, standing near the doors, was another me. She wasn't a reflection, she was real, flesh and blood. Same face, same hair, same everything. Except her eyes weren't filled with fear. They were focused, watching me. I couldn't move. She raised a hand, just slightly, almost like a test, tilting her head ever so slightly to the side, a mirror of my own movement. The train lurched to a stop. A robotic voice announced the next station. In the time it took me to blink, she was gone. The subway doors slid open. The crowd bustled past me. I turned, scanning every face, searching for her, but there was no one. No copy, no grin, only my reflection in the window, and this time it wasn't smiling. I rushed home as soon as work ended, my nerves stretched so tight I felt like they might snap. All day I had felt watched. Every reflective surface seemed off, Storefront windows, puddles on the sidewalk, the glass walls of the office lobby. I stopped checking them all together. I was too afraid I'd see something that wasn't supposed to be there. By the time I locked my apartment door behind me, my hands were shaking. It's fine, I'm fine. I pulled out my phone to distract myself. Scrolling mindlessly through my camera roll, I almost convinced myself that the morning had been some waking dream. Then I saw the photo. A selfie. I stopped breathing. I didn't remember taking it. It was me standing in my apartment, this very room, the lighting, the angle, even the clothes I was wearing right now, except it wasn't right. The eyes were too dark, not just shadowed, hollow, as if the pupils had swallowed everything. My lips were curled into a strange, stiff smile, like something barely pretending to be human. A wave of nausea rolled through me. Had I taken this in my sleep? Had someone else? My thumb hovered over the screen, stomach twisting in knots. Then the photo glitched. The image warped, streaking across my screen like a corrupted file. My face twisted unnaturally, elongated, grinning wider than before, the mouth stretching too far. Then it was gone, deleted. I opened my gallery, frantically scrolling back. It wasn't there. The space where it had been was just empty. My pulse thundered in my ears. This wasn't my imagination. It couldn't be. I quickly navigated to my cloud backup. If the photo had been real, it should have saved automatically. But when I checked the most recent files, there was nothing new. No record of the image at all, but there was something else. An old group photo from months ago, taken at a friend's birthday dinner. I barely remembered it, but when I tapped to enlarge the image, my breath turned to ice. In the background, behind my friends, barely noticeable in the dim lighting, a face, my face, peeking from behind a doorway, staring directly at the camera. I didn't remember seeing it before. I knew it hadn't been there before. I dropped my phone, the screen still glowing. Outside my window, something moved, a shadow shifting, waiting, watching. I didn't sleep, I tried, but every time I shut my eyes, I felt them. Not just watching, closer now, inside. By 3 a.m., exhaustion blurred into paranoia. Every creak of my apartment, every hum of the heater sent ice through my veins. My mind twisted shadows into shapes, silence into whispers. And then, a sound, a soft, distant murmur. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. It was coming from inside the walls. I told myself it was nothing, pipes maybe, a neighbor's TV. Then I heard it again, clearer, my voice, a whisper just behind the drywall, faint but unmistakably mine. My stomach knotted. I forced myself up, every nerve in my body screaming. The sound was coming from the far side of the room, just beside the bookshelf. I moved toward it slowly, my bare feet silent against the floor. The closer I got, the clearer the whisper became, soft, insistent, repeating me. I hesitated, every cell in my body screaming, "Don't do it," but I pressed my ear to the wall. At first, nothing. Then, shallow breathing, a perfect mirrored match to mine. I clamped a hand over my mouth, my skin turned to ice as I listened, heart hammering. It wasn't an echo, it wasn't in my head, it was real. And then it spoke. "Can you hear me?" My voice. I jerked back, my heel slamming into the bookshelf, sending a few books tumbling. My pulse roared in my ears. The whispering stopped. A horrible, suffocating silence filled the room. And then, a soft scratching, something moving inside the walls. I backed away, shaking my head. No, this wasn't possible. And yet, thump. A single deliberate knock from the other side, then another and another. The knocks followed my breathing. I clamped my hands over my ears, panic clawing up my throat. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything but stand here and listen. But then, in the silence, came the worst sound yet. A soft laugh. My laugh. But I wasn't laughing. I don't remember falling asleep. One moment I was sitting on my bed, every light in my apartment blazing, my phone gripped in my trembling hands. The next, darkness. I was on the floor. My head ached like I had been dropped from a great height. The air was thick and wrong, like I had woken up somewhere I didn't belong. I groggily reached for my phone, fingers stiff and uncooperative. The screen flared to life, blinding me in the dim room. My heart lurched at the sight. I had been texting someone. A half-typed message filled the screen. "Help me. I don't know which one I am." A cold, slow horror spread through my limbs. I didn't remember writing that. My throat was dry. I tried to swallow, but my body felt foreign, distant, like it wasn't quite mine. Then I saw the time, 6:37 a.m. I had lost 6 hours. I bolted upright, my pulse hammering. What had I been doing? Where had I gone? My apartment looked the same. Dim morning light filtering through the curtains, shadows stretched long across the floor. I checked my call log. No outgoing calls. My texts? No messages sent. But when I opened my recent apps, my stomach twisted into knots. My security camera app was open. I clicked on the last recorded motion alert. A cold weight settled over my ribs. The timestamp was 3:14 a.m., the exact time I had last been awake. I hit play. At first there was nothing, just my dimly lit apartment captured from the corner of the living room. No movement, no signs of life. Then, a figure stepped into frame. I choked on a breath. It was me. Barefoot, expressionless, moving slowly as if testing each step. The footage showed me walking to the front door. My hand hesitated on the lock, fingers twitching before I turned not towards the camera but toward the wall. My lips moved. I was talking. To something inside the walls. The audio was silent, no words, no sound at all. And then I turned, looking directly into the camera. The screen flickered and the footage glitched. When it came back, the door was wide open and I was gone. My stomach twisted into knots. The footage ended there. No return, no sign of me coming back inside. But I was here now, wasn't I? I needed air. My skin felt tight, my own body unfamiliar. I had to get out, away, before the walls started whispering again. The morning was cold and gray as I rushed down the sidewalk, my breath visible in the air. I kept my head down, my thoughts racing. Had I sleepwalked? Had I blacked out? Had it really been me that left my apartment last night? I didn't know anymore. Work was a blur. I kept catching glimpses of my reflection in the office windows, too slow, too fast, out of sync, until I stopped looking altogether. My coworkers' voices felt distant, muffled, like I was hearing them from underwater. The hours dragged, and when my shift ended, I practically ran home. My building looked the same. My door looked the same. The lock clicked open under my trembling fingers. But the second I stepped inside, something was wrong. The air felt different, heavier, thicker. My heart pounded as I scanned the room, my couch, my bookshelf, my dining table. Everything was here, but not quite right. The couch was slightly askew, just a few inches to the left. The books on my shelf were out of order. My rug had been shifted, its edges curled slightly upward. A single framed photograph sat on my coffee table, a picture of my parents and me taken years ago. I reached for it, my fingers trembling, and my stomach plummeted. I wasn't in the photo. My parents were there, standing in the same sunlit park, their arms wrapped around. Nothing. The space where I should have been was empty. I staggered back, my legs weak. No, this isn't my apartment. A sound broke the silence. Water. The shower was running. My blood turned to ice. I wasn't alone. I took a step toward the bathroom, pulse roaring in my ears. The door was slightly ajar, steam curling from the gap. I forced myself forward. My fingers trembled as I pushed the door open. The steam was thick, obscuring the figure inside. Then she stepped out, dripping wet, wrapped in my towel, my face, my body, my eyes. She didn't look surprised to see me. She smiled, like she'd been expecting me. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. She tilted her head, water dripping from her chin. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft, familiar. "Oh, you're back." I couldn't move. She stood there, wrapped in my towel, in my bathroom, in my home, smiling like she'd been waiting for me. The air was thick with steam, but I could see her clearly. The way she blinked too slowly, the way her lips stayed curved just a little too long. She was me, but she wasn't. My legs finally unlocked, and I stumbled back into the living room. My breath came in sharp, shallow gasps. This isn't happening. This isn't real. Footsteps, soft, bare, approaching. I turned and ran out the door, down the hallway. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I tore down the stairwell, nearly tripping over my own feet. I didn't stop until I was outside, gulping in the cold air like I was drowning. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone, dialing the first number that came to mind. No service. Panic clawed up my throat. I turned, scanning the street, and froze. They were everywhere, on the sidewalk, in doorways, behind windows, copies, versions of me. They weren't doing anything, just standing, watching. Some were almost identical. Others were wrong. One was too tall, her limbs stretched unnaturally long. Another had blackened gums visible between parted lips, her teeth too white, too perfect. A third had a head tilted at an impossible angle, like her neck had been snapped, but she didn't notice. They lined the street, watching, waiting. I backed away, my breath coming in shallow gasps. This isn't real. It can't be real. A flicker of movement caught my eye, a reflection in the window of a parked car. I turned toward it, horrified, desperate. Maybe my reflection was still normal, maybe I was still me. But the moment I looked, my reflection didn't move. It just stared at me. Then slowly, mechanically, it lifted a hand. Fingers bent at odd angles like broken twigs. It pointed directly at me and grinned. I stumbled back, slamming into something, someone. A hand clamped down on my shoulder. I spun around, another me, up close now, her face inches from mine. She leaned in, her breath cold. Her lips barely moved when she whispered, "You don't belong here." Then, every single one of them, smiled. I ran. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to get away, away from the copies, away from their smiles that stretched too wide, from their empty watching eyes. My breath burned in my throat as I sprinted down the sidewalk, weaving between strangers who didn't seem to notice the wrongness around them. No one reacted to the duplicates, to the way they lined the streets like mannequins. I needed help. I dug my phone out of my pocket, hands trembling as I called my best friend Rachel. She'd know me. She'd help me. The phone rang. Once, twice. She picked up. "Hello?" I exhaled, relief flooding through me. "Rachel. Rach, it's me. Something's wrong. Who is this?" I stopped walking. Her voice was different, cold, uncertain. "It's me," I said, my own voice unsteady. It's me." Silence. Then, "I don't know you." The line went dead. A numb, hollow feeling spread through me. No. I tried again. Her number was gone. I pulled up my contacts. Empty. Panic clawed at my throat. I ran to the nearest store, bursting through the doors. I just needed to see someone, anyone who knew me. The cashier gave me a bored glance as I approached. "Hey, can you scan my card?" I fumbled for my wallet, shoving my credit card toward him. "Please, just tell me my name." He raised an eyebrow, but swiped the card. The register beeped, declined. "Try again," I said quickly, shoving it forward. Another beep, declined. "Ma'am," the cashier said, his tone shifting, "are you sure this is yours?" The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Is this yours?" I pulled out my driver's license, holding it up to him. "It's me. Look, my name, I stopped. The ID photo wasn't mine. The face was different. Same eyes, same nose, same lips. But it wasn't me. The name beneath it, not mine. A cold wave of nausea surged through me. I dropped the card and bolted for the exit. I needed to see my own reflection. I sprinted past storefronts, searching for my face in the glass. But when I finally caught a glimpse, the me in the reflection stood perfectly still, not mirroring my movements, not moving at all. And then, she blinked. I stumbled backward, away from the glass. My reflection hadn't moved with me. It stayed still, frozen in place until it didn't. Her head tilted, not a natural tilt, but a slow, deliberate shift, too sharp, too calculated. Then, as if she had been waiting for this moment, she smiled. I turned and ran. I didn't know where I was going. My apartment wasn't safe. The streets weren't safe. My own reflection wasn't safe. I took the stairs two at a time, slamming through my apartment door, locking it behind me. My lungs burned. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. What's happening to me? I pressed my back against the door, chest heaving. I needed to think. I needed a knock from the window. My stomach dropped. Slowly, so slowly, I turned my head. The copies were outside, lining the street, standing in my yard, filling the sidewalk, all of them, staring, waiting. Another knock, this time from the wall, then the ceiling, then the inside of my closet. Knock, knock, knock. I clamped my hands over my ears, shaking. This isn't real, this isn't real. But it was. A voice, not just one, many, all of them, speaking at once. "You took too long. We've been waiting." "Which one are you?" I screamed. Lights flickered. The apartment shook. The voices grew louder, overlapping, suffocating. Something moved in the hallway, a shadow, shifting. The air was thick, suffocating, wrong. A wave of dizziness hit me, my vision blurred. The knocking pounded in my skull, my ribs, my skin, the walls stretched. The voices merged into one, and then nothing. Silence, darkness, a weightlessness, like floating, like sinking, like waking up. A slow, rhythmic beeping, sterile white light. A heavy weight in my limbs, like I'd been buried alive. I tried to move, but my body felt wrong. My arms didn't respond the way they should. My fingers twitched, sluggish, uncooperative. The scent of disinfectant filled my nose. I wasn't home. I wasn't anywhere I recognized. A soft gasp came from nearby. Footsteps, hurried, approaching. A voice, shaking with emotion. "Oh my God, you're awake!" I turned my head, every movement thick and delayed. A woman in scrubs was at my bedside, her wide eyes brimming with relief. A nurse. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry, my tongue sluggish. She rushed to the hallway, calling out, "Doctor! Doctor, she's awake!" A rush of footsteps followed. A man in a white coat entered, his expression carefully neutral, though his eyes studied me with intensity. "Welcome back," he said. "We weren't sure if we'd ever see you wake up." I swallowed hard. My voice came out hoarse, barely above a whisper. "Where?" "You're in St. Luke's Hospital," he said gently. "You've been in a coma for 3 months." The room tilted. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. No, I had been awake. I had been living. My apartment, my job, the copies, the whispers. It had been real, hadn't it? The doctor continued, his voice low, careful. "You suffered a dissociative fugue state," he said, "a rare condition. You fractured, your mind created alternate identities, and you disappeared into them. But now," he smiled, "now you're finally back." A slow, crawling dread settled in my gut. Because he was wrong. The one who had gone under, the original me, wasn't here anymore. I was. And I remembered everything. The reflections, the whispers, the doppelgangers who weren't just illusions, they were real. I had been one of them. I met the doctor's gaze. I smiled, slow, wide, unnatural. He didn't notice. No one did, because I had taken her place, and no one would ever know. Hey guys, if you like my videos, please like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. Thanks.